A week ago, Stefan brought me an old rusty wrench that his grandfather had used to repair his tractor 30 years ago. He asked me to restore it since it was his only memory of his grandfather. Despite the wrench being very old and rusty, Cookie and I will do our best to restore it and preserve the memory of Stefan's grandfather for years to come. First, we started by using a brush to remove the top layer of the rust, which came off fairly easily. However, we had to use a small screwdriver for extra help in some spots. Next, we took a piece of sandpaper and worked with it until we revealed clean metal. I tried to get the thread to turn freely using my incredible physical strength, but it wasn't enough. So I had to use this special lubricant which the ancient Romans used to grease their catapults. After a long time of twisting the thread back and forth, it finally loosened. Then, armed with a screwdriver, I began dismantling the wooden handle. Unfortunately, it was beyond saving, so I'll have to craft a new one. The handle was secured to the shaft with this very nut, which we can now easily unscrew using this British wrench of a newer generation, which we also restored in our previous video. Carefully unscrew it, and it looks like it broke off along with a piece of the thread. That's really bad, and I'll have to figure out a way to fix this later. What's worse, the cap that covered the wooden handle and protected it from cracking was also in a terrible condition, and I had no idea where to find a replacement. But as my uncle used to say, when there's a will, there's a way. A few minutes later, the wrench was completely disassembled and ready for restoration. Securing the parts in a vise made it much easier to work with them, allowing me to remove layers of rust using a long strip of sandpaper and a metal file. With the help of this grinder, I was able to reach the most difficult areas to clean, such as the internal threading and deep narrow holes. To clean the shaft that would be hidden under the handle, I brought out the heavy artillery, an angle grinder. Since the part wouldn't be visible anyway, I didn't have to worry about leaving deep scratches on it. At first, I cleaned the thick threading using a wire wheel attached to a drill. However, I used a small file to reach the most inaccessible spots of camera. The remaining piece of threading might have been too short, so I decided to cut the thread a little deeper into the handle using this awesome tap and die set. This round die has sharp and durable teeth inside that carve into the metal to create a new thread. It should be placed into a special holder with two handles and secured with bolts. After that, I positioned it over the existing thread and carefully turned it back and forth. This allowed me to extend the thread by a few extra millimeters, just enough to get the job done. When it got dark outside, I continued working indoors. My next task was to remove the remaining piece of the rod from the nut. I decided to drill it out using a conical drill bit. After that, I took a different tool from the same tap and die set and cut a new thread to make everything fit back perfectly together. Next, I needed to deal with the inner surface of this part. Leveling it without damaging the rods would have been nearly impossible, so I decided to enhance its aesthetics using a grinding tool. By making small indentations, I transformed the rough surface into a unique and cool texture. At a hardware store, I managed to find this copper adapter for heating systems, which happened to be the exact size of our handle cap. To create a new cap, I cut its edges and then polished them until smooth. Also, there was a shovel handle made of some beautiful wood. The price was so high that this should officially be the most expensive wrench handle in history. I spent my last bit of money on it and brought it home. Now I can officially call myself a person who buys shovel handles just to restore wrenches. After cutting off a small piece, I hoped it would be a great handle for our wrench, but what worried me the most was the need to drill a hole straight through the center of the workpiece, ensuring perfect alignment along its central axis. I wasn't sure I could do it. Actually, it turned out pretty well. To shape the handle, I secured a drill in a vise and used this wooden file. As you can see, the drill can somehow substitute a lathe. This ancient secret craftsman's technique helped me many times when working on lathe projects. However, the downside of this DIY lathe was the vibration of the workpiece. That's when an idea struck me. What if I used two files to clamp the spinning workpiece? It worked perfectly. The vibrations decreased and the pressure on the contrary increased, making shaping much easier. Rasps with large teeth work quickly, shaving off wood efficiently, but they leave deep scratches. So for the next step I used a metal file with finer teeth. After that, I switched to porous sandpaper to refine the handle to a perfect finish. Next, we need a large drill bit. Wait a minute, Stefan, what are you doing here? I told you, you'll be the first to see the result once the job is done. No need to attempt any escapes. You're a hamster, and hamsters can't just leave the house whenever they want. You have your cage where you're supposed to sit, eat your nuts, and run in your wheel. Now, we need to significantly widen this hole inside the handle. To prevent it from cracking during drilling, I'll put on this metal ring, which will keep it from splitting. The drilling process was quite difficult. The drill bits rotated with a lot of resistance and made some very strange noises. But even after using the widest bit, the hole was still too small. That's where the grinder with a magic attachment comes to the rescue. With its help, I managed to expand the cavity to the perfect size. Well, the wrench assembly kit is ready. Now, let's mount our copper cap. Pouring a bit of my favorite linseed oil into the bottle cap, I'll use a brush to apply it to the wooden handle. The oil seeps into every pore, sealing them and protecting the wood from moisture, pests, and probably even the apocalypse. A few hours later, I wipe off the excess with a cloth. Next, we screw on metal components, insert the rod and secure it with a nut on the opposite side. And now, after several days of work, our wrench is finally finished. I can hardly believe we managed to transform it so much. It probably didn't even look this good when it was first rolled off the assembly line. It features an unusual mechanism where turning the wooden handle moves the metal parts apart. Looks like Stefan likes it too. This wrench will remind him of his grandfather. It's not just beautiful, it's fully functional. I'll be happy to use it whenever needed.